Welcome to the Fate of Ukraine channel. The secret Ukrainian unit conducted major operations on the territory of Russia. According to The Guardian, the Bratstvo Battalion of the Ukrainian Special Forces turned out to be on Russian soil. The Bratstvo Battalion, which destroyed the military logistics lines located on the territory of Russia, organized large operas. Some members of the battalion, which cut off the logistics of the Russian army on the Eastern Front, returned to Ukraine. The information shared by the soldiers of the battalion is very important. The Bratstvo unit stated that the Russian border was quite easy to cross. Small task forces, usually 4 or 5 soldiers, find safe routes to Russia by studying the movement of livestock or by listening to the advice of those who transported contraband before the war. The Special Battalion also claimed to have shot down a Russian military helicopter in the past weeks. There were 3 high-ranking officers in the helicopter that were hit. According to the battalion, they can do anything to demoralize the Russian army. The commander of the battalion said, "We showed that we can enter Russian territory, and we showed the Russians that the Ukrainians can move." After the Russians learned that we were working on their territory, they mobilized a large number of their soldiers to find us. And after the soldiers of the battalion opened fire on the Russian commanders, it was a huge point of tension for the Russians made statements. Local sources also stated that Bratstvo members did not act according to plan. This special unit, which military analysts refer to as dogs of war, also conducted numerous operations. A soldier in the battalion also stated that they had entered the second line of the Russian defense. On the front line of the Russian defense are mine zones. Having crossed the mined area, the battalion began a special operation. The soldiers also took a video minutes before they started their duty. In the video, one of the soldiers of the battalion was seen talking about smashing a Russian train and saying, "I'm doing the thing I've dreamed of all my life." Members of the Bratstvo Battalion do not in any way describe their work since information about the operation could be passed on to the enemy, because their mission is highly classified. Still, Bratstvo Battalion member Taras said their operations were twice as safe as normal operations. Because the Special Battalion can make attacks in the region without obeying the rules and orders. Military analysts likened it to an event. According to analysts, he stated that in the Second World War, the SAS unit of the British Army carried out successful operations in North Africa with this tactic. Winston Churchill's codenamed War Dogs unit had led England to victory. At the moment, military analysts noted that the War Dogs on Russian soil conducted major successful operations. The most important feature of the Bratstvo Battalion is that it is not officially affiliated with the Ukrainian army. None of the soldiers of the battalion are citizens of Ukraine. That's why the biggest feature of this battalion is that it has no rules. During the Second World War, Britain did not include the SAS unit in its army at the beginning. Then, after the SAS unit achieved great success, it was appointed as the most successful unit of the army by order of President Winston Churchill. The same is happening in Ukraine right now. Officially, the Ukrainian army does not attack Russian territory. Members of the battalion inflict great damage on the Russian army. As a result of the successful attacks of this battalion, the Ukrainian army again advanced into the territory of Belagorovka. Units of the Ukrainian army again began to advance. Major clashes are taking place in Belagorovka, located in the Luhansk region. Immediately after local sources indicated that the Ukrainian army had begun to withdraw from the region, Ukrainian troops began to regain lost lands. Ukrainian soldiers showed with video footage that they were controlling part of the Belagorovka region. Military experts stated that a major offensive of the Ukrainian army against Crimea can now begin. The Russian army began to suffer great defeats because of the loss of its logistics lines. At the moment, the Ukrainian army has taken a great opportunity and is launching massive attacks on the Eastern Front. There are events that change the course of the war, as well as the postponement of the Great Russian Offensive in February. Russian troops continue to dig trenches during the conflict. But I think the Russian troops got tired of digging trenches. A Russian soldier tried to dig a trench with an excavator. As a result of the operation of the machine, there was too much noise, and the Ukrainian soldiers directly attacked the region. The 110th Mechanized Brigade of the Ukrainian Army, named after General Marko Bezruko, also launched a major offensive in the area where the Russian defense trenches are located. As a result of the attack, the Russian army suffered a great loss. Even the Russian soldier who was operating an excavator died as a result of the clashes. As a result of the conflicts, the Russian troops suffered the greatest loss during the war. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces stated that 1030 Russian soldiers lost their lives in just one day. Thus, they updated the tally of Russian personnel who lost their lives since the start of the war to 133190. Russian casualties cannot be definitively confirmed at this time. Russia has not updated its report since September 2022, when it said 5,937 soldiers were killed. Ukrainian border guards stated that an area in the south of Ukraine, where the Russian army and its armored vehicles are concentrated, was hit very hard. The border guards, with the help of aerial reconnaissance, identified the assembly point of the Russian army. It was shot down by kamikaze drones and artillery systems at the detected coordinates. The Border Guard Service of Ukraine reported that Russia suffered significant losses. Local sources could not make a definite statement about the Russian soldiers who lost their lives in the region. The Kremlin's loss in the region is huge. The Ukrainian army also announced that it shot down a Russian Su-25 type fighter jet in Bakhmut in the Donetsk region. It was stated that the border guards in the Bakhmut skies of the Donetsk region of the Russian Army Su-25 type fighter jet protected the Russian infantry advancing in the defense line of the Ukrainian forces from the air. The statement said, "Our guards opened fire from the portable anti-aircraft missile system and shot down the Russian warplane Su-25. The plane caught fire as a result of the missile hitting and crashing." On the other hand, in the statement made by the General Staff of Ukraine, it was reported that the Russian army carried out 6 missiles and 24 airstrikes in the last 24 hours. The Russians carried out 75 attacks with multiple launch rocket systems on infrastructures in Kharkiv, Donetsk, Dnipro, and Kherson regions. In the statement, which was noted that Ukrainian soldiers repulsed attacks on some fronts in the Luhansk and Donetsk regions, the statement also said, the Russian army is focusing on conducting operations in the Kupiansk, Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Novopavlovsk directions. In the statement, it was stated that the Ukrainian Air Force carried out 9 attacks on the areas where Russian forces and equipment are concentrated in the last 24 hours, and 2 attacks on the positions of anti-aircraft missile systems, and it was also stated that the Ukrainian missile and artillery units hit 8 collection areas of the Russian army. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu stated that the clashes in the cities of Ugledar and Bakhmut in Ukraine continue. The Allies are trying to prolong the conflict as much as possible, said. Western states continue to support Ukraine, where the war continues. Many countries have stated that they will provide tank aid. In this context, 2 Leopard-type tanks sent by Canada reached Ukraine. Canadian Defense Minister Anita Anand announced that the first Leopard 2 main battle tank has arrived in Poland. Making a statement on his social media account, Canadian Defense Minister Anand said, "The first Canadian Leopard 2 main battle tank we donated to Ukraine has arrived in Poland. Alongside our allies, we will soon train the Ukrainian armed forces in the use of this equipment. Canada will continue to support Ukraine," he said. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned that Russia and Ukraine are heading towards a bigger war. In his speech at the 193-member UN General Assembly, United Nations Secretary-General Guterres touched upon the war between Russia and Ukraine, and some of the problems facing the world, including climate change, extreme poverty, and wars. Guterres noted that 2023 was started by looking at the threshold of a series of challenges that have never been encountered before, and said, "This road is a dead end, we need to correct our route." Due to the oil embargo, Russia's daily loss will reach €300 million, said Borrell, the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Relations and Security Policy. The economic sanctions imposed by the European Union due to Russia's attack on Ukraine continue to hit the Russian economy. According to the statement of the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Relations and Security Policy Josep Borrell, the daily loss of Russia due to EU sanctions on oil and petroleum products will reach €300 million. In a written statement he wrote for La Vanguardia newspaper, Borrell stated that the European Union is currently working on the 10th sanctions package and that European countries have reduced their dependence on energy imports from Russia in a few months. Noting that Russia has to sell the Ural oil it produces at a discount of $40 compared to Brent oil, Borrell said, after our latest measures take effect this month, Russia's daily energy revenues are expected to decrease from €800 million to €500 million. It is calculated that the European Union sanctions and ceiling price decision on Russian crude oil cost the country €160 million per day, and this figure will increase to €280 million per day with additional measures that came into effect as of February 5. According to a study by the think tank Energy and Clean Air Research Center, Russia's revenue from fossil fuel exports fell significantly due to the embargo and price cap. The said practice led to a 32% decrease in Russia's crude oil revenues. It was calculated that Russia lost €160 million per day due to the embargo and the ceiling price application. The oil and gas revenues of the budget fell sharply in January. The Russian Ministry of Finance reported that oil and gas revenues from the federal budget in January decreased by 46% compared to the same period of the previous year, to 426 billion rubles. In the preliminary assessment of the ministry regarding the January 2023 budget implementation, it was emphasized that the main reason for the decrease in budget revenues from Russia's oil and gas exports was the decrease in price quotations for Ural oil and the decline in natural gas exports. We'll see what happens in the coming days. We have come to the end of another video. You can like the video to support us. By subscribing, you can easily follow new videos. See you.